Selves warmed by the poetry of today's readers, Brooke Matson and Dorothy Trogdon. I think you'll also find that the heat of their poetry comes in varied ways, sometimes through gentle radiance and sometimes through friction. Along with sharing a complex sensibility, Brooke and Dorothy also share a publisher, Blue Begonia Press, lovingly run by Dan and Amy Peters in Selah, Washington, and a vital part of our literary landscape. Dorothy Trogdon's new collection, Tall Woman Looking, is perfectly titled. To read it is to stand beside a clear-eyed, compassionate woman as she looks into the fleeting present and across time, as she contemplates the cup of a tulip or a hawk shadowing its prey, as she invites us to linger with her before the art we make of this world and the world beyond our making. Let us walk with her now. Please welcome Dorothy Trogdon.
Thank you, Christine. And I have to tell you, in case you don't know, that Christine recently won the top award for Washington State Poet. So it's pretty nice to be introduced by such a distinguished poet.
I'm humble.
And I have to say that reading in this space is kind of like a violinist going to Carnegie Hall. It is such a resource for writers, not just poets, but I know other artists that come here for this rich resource. It's quite wonderful, both you and John, what you have done for the local writing community. And I have to express my appreciation to Kathleen Flanagan, who is here, who shaped my collection into something that did have a shape, that was publishable, and tempted Dan Peters with a bit of it so that he wanted to publish. So I have such support. It's quite incredible, and I'm endlessly grateful to both of you. And Elizabeth put my voice on the radio, KUOW. Wow. Terrific. I think it was about 40 years ago, and I was living in Spokane, and I was writing a bit of poetry and locking it in a desk drawer. For many years I did that. But there was one woman that I occasionally shared a poem with that I trusted, and she has never heard me read, and she lives in Spokane, and she's here this afternoon. Well, the season has been fabulous, hasn't it? Never such a golden September and into October. And so I think that's a good place to start. Just blessed by what we have had in the landscape. October. There is molten gold on the morning sea. Long shadows lie on the withered grass. Late roses bloom and blow, the fruit's been eaten. The elegant peony leaves have turned to bronze. The swallows have fledged their young and flown, and something of my summer self has vanished too. Now are my autumn days, my time to reap, and though my loft is full, the hour late, in wonder now I find an out-of-season golden harvest flowering on my vines. I think memory is an amazing thing, even with all we know now about brain science. Memory still remains a great deal of mystery, and we go back, I know in both Christine's and in Kathleen's work, there is a drawing up from the past, from youth. It's so interesting, and as you get older, of course, you have a lot more to draw from. And so I've thought about it, and the Greeks had a goddess. Her name was Mnemosyne, and a goddess of memory. So I wrote this titled Mnemosyne. Under this gray thatch, beneath the bone arc of skull, motherboard of memory, microscopic labyrinth of perception, what I have seen, learned, what cracked me open and made me bleed and sing, dances on a string of synapses, secure from erasure yet a while. And if you were with me when whatever happened, happened, I live in the image maze of your remembering as you do in mine, ripe plums falling into our open hands. And here's a poem out of my childhood. It's called Festiva Maxima. For you gardeners, you may know that name. Festiva Maxima is a kind of peony. Big, big white blossoms with red streaks. They're quite stunning. Gardeners love them. Everybody does. Festiva Maxima. In May, when the marbled balls of the peony buds are poised atop their long red stems before they explode in a burst of petals, I remember the row of Festiva Maxima lining the walk between house and garage when I was a child in Maine. By June, they wore heavy, tousled heads of snowy feathers, splashed sparingly with strokes of startling crimson. And I think of my father striding past them, vanishing into his other existence, a classroom of strangers studying Shakespeare. For what can the girl child finally know of the man who fathered her, whose secret life is as close to her as a peony bud in May? Beloved enigma, lodestar indwelling, wearing your Harris tweed, what stirred in your heart when you laid your hand so gently on my hair? I studied history of art in college, and all my life I have loved looking at paintings and reading about artists, and there are quite a number of poems in my book about artists and art. It's very close to my heart. I thought you would all know Georgia O'Keeffe, so I thought I would read that one. When she was young, she took a bundle of her drawings to New York to Alfred Stieglitz. He had a little upstairs avant-garde gallery, and he was much older and married, but he really thought she was something, and he supported her art and much more. So here is a poem, O'Keeffe. He would, she could see, own her art as well as her slender body if she let him. His adoration more than an encumbrance, a corral in which to tame her fire. Teach me the tools, she said, and I will make with them what I choose. And she rode out beyond the fences, color her language, the sweep of barren landscape, her solace. One other artist poem that you may not be familiar with his name, Howard Hodkin, is a contemporary British painter. His paintings are not large, fairly small, but rich with color. And speaking of memory, he has said that they're abstract, and he has said they come from a memory of a moment and a place, and that really connected with the poet, of course, Howard Hodkin. I have known moments only your crimson, vivid green, your cobalt could describe. Your brush strokes sweeping like wildfires of the mind. Moments set apart in memory from all that came before and after, their color washed in light.